What do you move? Is there any competition?
You would know your own.
Same way around. Yeah.
Like just a couple weeks ago that but I just have been there's summary stuff which that was like kind of really
At least get a haircut.
Not there. I don't.
The whole night you're like,
I want your.
Isn't it like
hey, I'm listening.
All right, thanks for being here. We're going to go ahead and get started. We probably need to do this every week, so I know it'll be repetitive for some, but there's always new people, and there are always people here that don't know everybody. We do want this to be kind of your village, your support crew, as we think about children and grandchildren. So let's go around real quickly. Your name, children's names, ages, and let's share one parenting. Like what is your, if there's only one, that'd be good. If there's one parenting thing that you're most concerned about now, narrow enough, not too much. If not, just we can move on. All right, where we're gonna go? All right, Tammy, you in there.
Andy and Tammy. We're in the adult parenting, and it's a whole lot harder than anything else.
Well, there's a lot of good about it.
There's a lot of good about it, but it's hard to be a parent, adult child. You're not in control at all. You lost all control.
Control, it's not an issue with that.
Not an issue really at all. It is great, but learn to be a good mother.
We're Ryan and Abby. We have 6 boys. We're 14, 11, 11, 9, 7, 5. And so my biggest concern is how to be intentional and focus on the things that matter, while also just managing the chaos of playing different sports and like laundry and dishes and things you have to do, and then the things that are really important.
Every time they talk about 6 boys, we all need to go. All right. Y'all worked everything out last week, or? You still withholding food from your
said what he said. He did say what he said, but it was at lunch for nap. If you do that again, you're going to go to bed without lunch, not without supper. That was,
So really, we're not worried about the kids now, we're just worried about you.
where Adam and Stephanie have, where we have a 16-year-old, an 11-year-old, a 6-year-old, and a 3-year-old. And I think the main concern right now is where to show tough love with boundaries, but also let them see grace and hear why we do the things.
We're Lindsay and Adam. We have 5, 12, 10, 7, 6, and 4. And I think ours are very similar. I think for me, it's being like intentional with each individual because they're all so different, and I struggle with wanting to, like, I feel spread thin. Like I want to make the most of every moment with each of them because they all have different needs, and that's not for sure. Adam doesn't struggle with anything. He's confident we're doing it all.
I'm just trying to stay in the house. Yesterday, Carter was doing laundry. Apparently there was a sock for Lindsay came up and said, I'm done. And I was outside swimming with one of the girls. And she left. I didn't know
To
where
go to
she
Target.
went. 30 minutes, and then I found out she left, and 30 minutes later, Carter came up and said, I'm here. I don't know where she went. And he started to break down. And he started to cry. Buddy.
I'm not proud of this moment. Thank you for telling me.
He said, can I go get beat? All right. And I thought it was going to be big. And he said, Mom came upstairs. She said, I'm done. He didn't think she was coming back.
I told him I was done with this sock conversation. He thought I was done. Not going to leave you forever. I was done.
Probably some more we need to say about that.
That's real good on getting the individual time.
It was all right waiting a long part, but I was very frustrated. One task. Maybe for a long time.
It doesn't feel good to have your house, man.
No perfect parent. No perfect parent. Okay.
No, I'm glad to follow that. I'm Jeffrey. This is Ashley. We have 2. We got a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old. I think our biggest concern right now is our 4-year-old is just the big tantrums, the big emotions, and trying to figure out how to like navigate those in a healthy way, and not, I don't know, just trying to get that under control in some way or another.
Good.
I'm Cynthia. This is Jackson. I'd say the biggest thing right now is like making sure we're set, and that way it's like a hypocritical
Okay.
punish her on something.
And I
Those are the days. Great gentleman. Great. Very technical.
I think I'm figuring some doing for Jay here. Jay's here. Yeah. Is 8 here what's saying is patience. It goes like okay, whenever or I get that, yeah.
Making sure
Right.
stay here, we're supposed to come. Position.
You can narrow it down.
To
Nice.
he has a lot of hand where he
Consult.
kids. And
that Davey is a year and a half. You know, she's some her discovery and then letting her feel there. Katie.
A 5-year-old Blake son named Bennett Tucker. With our issues with Blake, she can like channeling the and then Bennett and you what's wrong. He can't see how he feels.
He gets it for me.
Yeah. Anything. So, this is emotions. Maybe they'll. I need to like meet in the middle. Blake could probably tell us what's wrong. Yes.
They're trapped.
Yeah.
I'm Josh. This is my wife, Ray. We have Evelyn, who's our parenting consultant. She's 3.5. And Levi will be 2 in a few. Our biggest struggles with Evelyn, I think, right now is potty training. And Levi, he, I think just containing him is our biggest struggle. Keep him from jumping off things or running in.
It's on the job description. Well, I think it's valuable. I think with each other and you get to meet people that feel like maybe you can be like, hey, you said this, like, or what you did this, like you look at some parents that are a little ahead of you, like, hey, how does that work? What did you learn from that? And most of the things we learn probably from our mistakes. So, as we move forward in this class, this is kind of the plan. Like, I want to start after this. I want to start the class with kind of a reminder, bigger picture, like what we're called to do as parents and grandparents. I'm a guy. Tammy's much better. Always been much better at like the practical details of how to do something. Like I know the why, knows the how, and so we're going to let her then talk about some of the specific things we're talking about. Tammy, that we talked a bit about last week. So, but let's do a little Bible study. So if you have your Bibles, let's turn to a couple of verses. All right, somebody get Luke 6:45. And somebody get Proverbs 4:3. All right, who's got? I just set this up a little bit. One of the things that may be obvious to you, or you might not have thought about, is that our children, as Christian parents, I think this is true. Our children aren't really our children. They belong to God. They're from God. God is with us. And so, like that's a little different responsibility, I think, when you got it from that point. Your mind or do what you want them to do. Like you are working for the one who is the ultimate father in parenting. Does that make sense? Like you've been given this gift, and we're going to steward it best, help along the way. So parenting is, I read this, parenting is not about what we want for our children or from our children, but what God wants to do through us in our children. And so really you want to get to a point like where you're leaving a legacy. Like a legacy. Like it's not really that important, I think, to leave your children an inheritance. But I think it's very important to leave them a legacy of faith. And they will know that you're perfect, know that you're not a perfect parent, but do they love the Lord with all their heart. Like for me, that's the bottom line. And fighting for the heart. We're like, we want behavior. But if it's about behavior, like they miss the heart, that's the problem. Because the heart is really what controls everything. So the importance of the heart. So who has the Proverbs 4:23?
I've got it. Watch over your heart with all diligence, for from it flow the springs of life.
Okay. There's a lot in that little verse. It says, above all else, guard your heart. So what is above all else? Right? All else, that means everything that's important is less important. Your heart and your child, the heart of your child. So above all else, guard your heart. Like what's involved there? Yeah, right. Like the world is going to try to influence your heart and the heart of your children, and you've got to guard that. You've got to guard that. It goes into their heart, and what they put in their heart will ultimately come out in who they become. As it says, two from your heart. You know, we think the mind, thoughts, and we think the heart and our emotions, but in Scripture, they're really the same. Like the mind and the heart are really the same thing. So you hear Scripture talking about the heart, they're talking about what you think and your emotions. So guard your heart. Above all else, guard your heart. What you do flows from it. What was the other verse that we gave? Luke 6:45. All right, let me read that. Luke 6:45. Okay, so what comes out in our words and our actions really our heart, really come out of our heart. And so what I'm saying is we need to fight, first of all, for our own heart, that we love the Lord the God with all our heart, that our children love God. So if we focus just on the externals, we're going to miss the overflow of the heart. So when we think about the behavior, you need to think about like what is the heart behind that behavior. And maybe it's not this complicated, but maybe it's selfishness. Like we're all selfish. Maybe it's self-centeredness. Like you need to think about what is the heart. Them acting a reflection of something that's in their heart. And then that's something that needs to be addressed more so getting them to be quiet or do the right thing or sit still or whatever. Children, children that are very compliant, whose heart is far. And I have a rambunctious kid with a lot of emotions, that heart for God, sit still, and whose heart is far from. That makes any sense. All right, so let's go back to the kind of the where we start. Deuteronomy chapter 6. Everybody turn to that. Deuteronomy chapter 6. Somebody read Deuteronomy chapter 6, verses 4 through 6. Hear Israel. One. These words shall be on your heart. Okay. This is the first and the greatest commandment, Jesus said. Love the Lord your God with all your heart. And these commandments, verse 6, I give you today are to be on your heart. That's where it's got to start. You can't give what you don't have. So it's got to be on your heart. Again, we're not talking about perfection, but your kids are watching you, They have a front row seat in your life, and they know whether it's real or not. They know whether or not you love the Lord with all your heart, or if you're just going through emotions, or if it's just this is what we do as a family. They know that. It's important to bring your kids to church. I love that. But that alone doesn't necessarily address the heart. The heart is where the motivation comes from. And then in verse 7 through 9, we're going to talk about this even more in the weeks to come. Like, impress these things on you. Talk about them when you sit at home, when you walk along the road, lie down, when you get up. Symbols on your hands, bind them on your foreheads, write them on the doorframe of your house. One of the things that we're going to talk about forward is we've got to create a new normal. Like, it should be normal in Christian families to talk about our faith, to talk about God, talk about Jesus, and talk about, Jesus loving us and us loving each other. Like, that should be normal. It wasn't normal necessarily. My mother quite a bit. But like, those conversations shouldn't be awkward in our family. We got to make a new normal. Think about what is the normal in your family. There could be a new normal where these things, and it's going to take a while, but these kind of things are these are conversations that we have, and it becomes something you see a rainbow. They experience something at school, and they say you're able to take that and show that as kind of a picture of the life. So you remember this speech that Moses made. If you remember, like, he was right on the edge of the promised land, and so you have a whole generation of people who God led out of Egypt, out of slavery, and all the plagues, crossing the Red Sea, and all this miraculous thing. But they promise. So now Moses is talking to the next generation. This first generation, they knew and experienced God in a real way. The second generation, Joshua led into the promised land. After that generation, if you look at the book of Judges, after that generation died, you know what happened to the next generation? They didn't know what they had not experienced, or they didn't know God, and so they just did what was right in their own eyes. And so what I think needs to happen is every generation needs to be the first generation that knows and experiences God. You need to know and experience God so that your children can know and experience God, because if not, then this generation that knows and experiences God, somehow this generation only knows God, that doesn't experience God, and then this generation doesn't even know God or experience God. And so you know and experience God yourself, and then you make sure that your children know God. They'll make sure that their children know and experience God. Like, some of you have parents and grandparents who have been that for you, and now it's your turn to be that for your children, so that then they can be. But it begins with the heart. It begins with the focus of being, like I've said this before, I would, more than anything else, that's what I wanted for my kids. They would love the Lord with all their heart. Good grades, that was nice. I mean, well-behaved kids, that was nice, when that happened. But none of that matters. Like, when they graduate high school, none of that matters. And none of it matters. The only thing that matters is do they love the Lord. So that's why you really want to connect with them on a heart level, not the behavior level. Now, the behavior, we're not about anything else but that's also an opportunity to connect with the heart level. You're going to tell us how to do that.
Okay. Last week, remember what we talked about in our behavior? Anybody have an experience with that? Anybody give that a try? Anybody want to share? I see some that did but don't want to share. Okay, so, all right, we're going to kind of go back on that and then go a little bit further, because I think the question that was asked by Kayla was like, what do you do when they don't stop? That's a good thing. Yeah. So first of all, again, playing off of what you said, you've got to somehow see the big picture, okay? And I read and I went back to try to find it, and I couldn't, so I'll kind of paraphrase that. You want to teach your children how to and manage these emotions that they have. When they're adults, they can handle and understand these emotions. And because if you do everything for them, this was one example, if you do everything for them as a child, when they be an adult, they can't do anything for themselves. And you've seen that. And I've seen that. And I witnessed parents who did that, and then like the adult has no confidence, no self-confidence at all. They have no confidence in their ability to do anything. And they're just miserable, you know? So I know this is hard, just trying to think this is what I'm trying to do, but these emotions are real. They're real. Your job is to teach them what those emotions are, and what to do with them. And so that's kind of where we're going to go with this. Okay. So we said, first of all, with a something going on, first, obviously. Your job as a parent is to sit down and to keep them safe, not running out in the road, you know, whatever. Jumping to keep them safe. They're not going to like it because they're not going to do what they want to do. I read a lot about this. We never had time out because that wasn't when our kids were in time out. Okay, so that's not a thing either now. I'm not saying to do that.
We would do a lot of things there.
And we didn't do that a lot. I mean, this says time in beats time out. What the philosophy and the meaning behind that is by them. They need to know you're still there. They need to know that you didn't leave them.
I'm done. Wrong message.
They need to be calm as you can be. Now, I'm not a person. I'm a person who reads my face and tell it exactly how I feel. And it's all right there. There's no hiding it. But as you can, stay calm so that they perceive mom is okay. Mom's not always calm, but they need to kind of perceive that mom is calm. Okay?
Can I tell you?
Yes, you must.
Just like Jesus, just stop all.
And that doesn't always work. So.
You try it.
Yeah.
Works on me sometimes.
Maybe before you leave.
Okay, but you know, it may be that you're staying there, but you may have to step back a little bit. You know, sometimes we have to step out of the situation for just a minute and kind of count to 10 ourselves, kind of gain our composure because you just want to beat this child right now, you know, if you stayed around. Feelings are allowed. All behaviors aren't allowed. Okay, you've got to keep that in mind, those boundaries. They're not all allowed. You can't, it's okay for them to be mad, but it's not okay for them to throw something, hit something, you know, those type of things. Okay? She also mentioned fewer words in the storm. Okay? The less you say, the better. Some of us, that's easy for. Some others, it's not, because you have a lot of words. Okay? More words after the fact that you've gotten this situation taken out, not just lecturing them during the fact. And you've seen this, a parent just keep on and on and on and on about stop that, blah, 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 and you're like, oh, they're not getting any of that. You know, because you're just keeping on. Have you got something to say?
Wondering why you're stepping on our toes.
hey, we've all done this. Let me tell you, everything else we've all done. Okay? And then repair what's happened and go back over what you did. Because a lot of times it's like, because I said so, and we don't ever tell them, and they don't know how to process what they just did that you got mad at. What did I do that got you to react this way? You know, they need to understand that and start realizing that this emotion has this consequence, this emotion has this feeling. And so it's a lot of just teaching them how to deal with those things. Okay, so here's a step-by-step that I found. So name plus limit. All right? You really want to jump. I won't let you jump on the couch. Couches are for sitting. Let's say they're wanting to jump on the couch. You really want to jump. You're naming it. I'm not going to let you jump on the couch because that's not safe. That's not good for you. Couches are for sitting. Both of those things are true. What they do, what you want to do are both true. So she says, offer a safe outlet for that. Okay, you can't jump on the couch, but let's jump over here on the cushions or on the floor or whatever. So give them something else to do that allows them to do that. Okay? They're not going to like that, right? They're going to jump on the couch because that's a lot more fun than jumping on the floor or over here. Okay? So let's say that they start flailing and, oh, I don't want to do this. That ever happen? Okay, so what do you do then? Really? What do you do then? Somebody that it's worked. What do you do then?
Try to ignore it. That doesn't.
Okay.
I have to ignore it because I get so mad. I'm like, I can't love my. She goes just.
Okay.
Then I go
say
back.
if you're going to do that, go somewhere where we can.
Yeah,
to your
we
room,
tried
go
that.
to the steps, but we're not listening to it in the family.
Yes.
Or if we're all outside, then you're going to have to go inside.
Yeah, send her to her room.
So don't come out until you're.
What if it happens in a restaurant?
We don't go out to eat.
So we avoid that.
And if we did it, it's Mexican, so it's
Get outside. All right, somebody else. What's your approach?
Sunday, like going that week, and we're
But you didn't leave.
I just think the way that I handle it, like I have a 5-year-old now, and then also a 14-year-old. The first kid that I was dealing that with, like, he consumed me, and I thought, oh my gosh, he's such a bad kid. I can't believe this is happening. And then we're trying to get from one event to the next. Like, the 5-year-old has to leave soccer practice and just immediately starts squalling. And I don't really care what anyone thinks about it. And I just kind of drag him to the car. Let's go, this happens. And if anyone's like, what's going on? I'm like, he's 5 and he didn't get what he wanted. And so I think how I am able to weather that storm is a little less like, this is my fault and I have a bad kid. And we're like, oh, he's just 5. Because I remember 2-year-olds on the floor and stuff like, what's wrong with him? I'm like, he's 2. Like, that's what's wrong with him. And so I think anyone who's dealing with this for the first time, you're not a bad parent. Like, kids are bad. They're bad kids.
And that's what Abby's saying is so true. You're not a bad parent. You're not a perfect parent. You're not right, but you're not a bad parent. And they're not a bad kid. You know, you're doing what they're supposed to be doing. And you're doing the best you know to do this. And when you're a first time parent, that's the first time. Nobody gave you, there wasn't a manual on this, and this is how to handle this. It wasn't there, you know. The second time you're a parent, that kid's so different from the first one. You're starting all over again. The third time, 4th time, you know, I'm sure. It's just like, yeah. And the older you get more tired, and you don't know what, you know. So they're not bad. You're not. They're trying to learn how to deal with life. You're trying to learn how to deal with, you know, being a parent there. Okay? So here's some options for you. So they're jumping on the couch, and you tell them, can't jump on the couch. It's not safe. Here's another option. Jump over here on the cushions. Jump somewhere else. They are going to say no. They're going to start flailing or whatever, and continue to say, I'm going to keep you safe. That's my job. You're not going to jump on the couch, okay? And I'm right here for you, and I'll help you do something different when they're ready. You know, making them, pulling them over and doing that's just only going to make it worse. And you know that. We've all done that because it's just easier just to put you over here, and you're not going to do that, okay? Move them to a calm spot. Move them somewhere that they're not going to get hurt. They're still throwing a fit. Okay, they're not in punishment here because they're still learning. Okay, we're moving to a calm space so I can keep you safe, and hopefully wait for them to kind of settle down, and then you talk about this situation. go back over it. Now, going to Caleb's question. How long do I let them express this? How long do I let this keep going on? Because they can their limit and what you're going to do, and you know, they'll go to dad, they'll go to mom, they'll figure out everybody they can get whatever they can get, right? And that's just human. All right, so this is what is suggested. Okay, if they're toddlers, ages 2 to 3, typically it's going to last from 2 to 5 minutes with waves. So meaning it's going to happen again, it's going to happen again, it's going to happen again. She says if you're stuck at 10 minutes, then you're going to have to change something. Throw it out. Yes. Okay, you're going to have to change something. The charts.
Or maybe the 4-H.
Yeah. Take them outside. Take someone else. Get them distracted. Give them some water. Give them something to do. You know, distract them. Off of that. Because their little brains, they only have a few minutes. A few seconds. Getting them distracted from that because it's so short, don't forget that very quickly. If they can get onto something else, their mind onto that. Now, not saying it works every time. This is a suggestion here. You can give other suggestions. Like I said, there's no perfect answer. If they're a little older, 3 to 5, typically it lasts 3 to 10 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes, and the intensity is dropping. They're still throwing that fit. Then you got to do something different in a different room. Turn the lights down. Do something else that is changing the scene. Okay, something that's totally changing the scenery, so that they know something has happened here that's different than what it was when I was going through this. You know, give them something to do. They may throw it. You know, then that's a whole different issue. We'll start all over then. You know, and again, keep your word minimal. You're not lecturing them. And that's tends to be what I would. It's just keep telling them over and over and over again. That's not helping. Not helping anything. I'm getting my and they're and it's useless. And so if they're early, it's going to be a little longer, 15 minutes. Again, if it lasts longer than 15 minutes, you're going to reset the give them something different. Water break. Walk away from this. We're going to do something else for a minute. We'll come back to it. You always want to come back to it when they're calm and talk about what, so they understand. They need to learn from this what happened. So you always want to come back to it, but not until they're calm. Because try to they won't run out of time. Last one is if they're older than that. Again. Pick something that can distract them, do something different, and these aren't going to work all the time. But I think thinking about the end result of I've got to teach them what this emotion is and how to do it, because later in life, I don't want a 20-year-old going to tantrum. If you don't think it'll happen.
Should be fun. Yeah.
I think they look very sorry.
They must have been and tried to go into that class.
And do a Bradford does. Hey, Bradford, those are